Yo, what's poppin' everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Zach Lesage here. Today we're going to be covering over the top 10 best decks in the Twilight Masquerade format. We've had a lot of movement lately in these things since NAIC, so this is going to be the best list heading in League Cups, League Challenges, and everything else. That being said, be sure to check it out. Let's jump into it. Jumping into number 10, we have Snorlax Stall coming back strong. Now, Snorlax is really one of those decks where it kind of took a backseat towards NAIC. A lot of people thought Pidgeot Control was going to be the deck to beat when it came to control decks, and Snorlax is like, nah, we found ways to counter the metagame. I recently took a very similar deck to this to a win-a-box kind of tournament, and I ended up making top 8, lost to Lugia. It was tough, but you want to know, it's one of those things where I think that Snorlax, it's not going to beat every single deck, but it certainly has a lot of answers when it comes down to it. And you could always adjust the accounts of Giacomo and Temple of Sinnoh to really see where the metagame's sitting. I think as we explore the rest of this format, Snorlax is going to be very strong to where we saw at the tail end of the Temporal Forces format that Azul won Stockholm Regionals with a Snorlax list. So I think Snorlax is definitely on the rise up again, so make sure that you have answers to it into your deck if you're trying to face anything, or just see where your local metagame's at as we approach League Cups going forward. Another deck on its way up is going to be Chien-Pao, landing at number 9 this week. Now, Chien-Pao EX was arguably the best deck for a while, and then Twilight Masquerade came out, and everyone's like, how is this deck supposed to function? I think we all overestimated how far this deck should go down. I mean, it went from number 1 to non-existent. Now it's back up at number 9, and it's crawling its way back as the format's kind of stabilizing. More people are playing Charizard EX. More people are playing more favorable matchups for Chien-Pao, allowing it to claw its way back in. I think that the group of players that typically play as Chien-Pao is always going to continue to play Chien-Pao. So if you're a player that's been playing Chien-Pao, I don't think it's a bad choice. I think it's actually one of the better choices in this metagame, and it's probably still positioned too low right now. Arguably, you can't take away the success of this deck or any of the other typical decks that we've seen on this list. Our metagame is pretty figured out because Twilight Masquerade really just added a few more things than we already had in our Temporal Forces metagame. More or less, it added in Dragapult and a few new ace specs. But that being said, all the lists available for these decks are going to be available in the pinned comment. Check in the comment section so you can copy and paste these right into PTC Live. And while you're at it, give this video a like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends about it. Moving up the ranks, we have Ancient Box. Now, Ancient Box is the deck that I brought to the North American International Championships, and I was able to finish in the top 128. As the metagame kind of continues to blossom and bloom, I feel like Ancient Box is becoming more respected among a handful of players, and of course we'll see how the rest of the metagame kind of shapes up around it. I'm not saying this is the best pick of all decks, but it is certainly one of the better single prize card decks and has a lot of top good matchups besides anything else. So you have some decent matchups all around you. The biggest struggle for Ancient Box is just kind of getting set up, because you have to rely on something like Professor Zeta's Vitality, which is a glorified hop energy acceleration engine. Not necessarily the best, but we got to deal with what we got to deal with. That being said, I really think that this is one of the better decks in format, and it's one of my favorite decks in format. So if you haven't given it a try, by all means, give that deck a try. Sliding into number 7 is going to be Charizard EX. Now, Charizard EX hasn't really gained too much from Twilight Masquerade, but it did gain Unfair Stamp, which is interesting. Kieran to do some extra damage, and it's kind of looking exactly the same otherwise. You're going to be using Charizard EX, rare canning into that Pokemon, accelerating energies, attacking. Pidgeot is going to be the support to search out whatever you need, and Bibarel is going to be that backup support that's not a 2 prize card Pokemon. We have enough kind of moving pieces between Radiant Charizard to attack, Rotom, Lumineon, Manaphy to protect against our bench. You name it, we have it. Charizard has really been discovered over the past year, and the lists are going to start looking very similar. Charizard gets even better in our next set with Dusknoir, so I kind of want to throw that out there. If you haven't started testing Charizard now, I think Dusknoir from Shrouded Fable makes this deck absolutely even more broken. So I really think it's one of those things where if you haven't tried it yet, maybe it's worthwhile to try, so at least you're prepared for it. So give Charizard a try. This list is fantastic. And again, all the lists are available in the pinned comment below for copy and paste. If you need any cards, check out Kayfabe Cards for physical cards or PTCGL Store 4 online code cards. As one of the more surprising decks on this list, Regidrago is rising through the ranks and is all the way at number 6 right now. Regidrago VSTAR copies the dragon type Pokemon that we have in our discard piles, such as Dragapult EX, Noivern EX. I mean, you can see them on the list here, and you have a variety of attacks that you can use. You power it up by using Teal Mask Ogerpon accelerating energies, and using energy switch to energy switch them to the Drago. At that point, all you need to attach is a fire, evolve in Drago VSTAR, and we have a solid deck kind of rolling right now. Should be relatively simple to get everything put into play, and who does not like copying attacks? We've seen strategies like this in previous formats, such as Mewtwo and Mew GX, copy decks in the discard pile or copy attacks from the discard pile, and really win the world championships. Will Regidrago do the same? It actually gets a few cool cards from Shrouded Fable, so if you haven't got a chance to pick up this deck, I think it's totally one of those decks that's going to rise over the next couple months. Sliding into number 5 is going to be Lugia VSTAR Archeops. Now, the build that I went to today is going to be similar to Alex Szymanski's, if not his exact list from NAIC. We've seen very similar results for this deck, and it seems like there's a kind of divide. Should you run Chinchino or should you run a bunch of basic Pokemon? In this case, Alex is our best performer with Lugia at NAIC, and our newly minted TSS member, welcome back, Alex. The goal of this deck is to get Archeops into your discard pile, really accelerating those energies to your various Pokemon. In this case, we can accelerate Legacy Energy and a few energies to Iron Hands, draw extra prize cards. And we have ways to kind of transform out of nowhere, such as using Thornton, to really make for some interesting gameplay. Very interesting version of the deck, and I think it's one of those things where, is this better? Is Chinchino better? I'm not sure. I was team Chinchino, but you want to know what? It's hard to argue with last year's European International Champion, and arguably one of the best players in the world. We'll have to find out, so stay tuned for future iterations of Lugia as we enter into the formats. Raging about at number 4 is going to be Raging Bolt EX with Teal Mask Ogerpon. The top deck heading in NAIC, and it's still up there. Arguably the most aggressive deck that we have in format, utilizing Teal Mask Ogerpon to accelerate energies into play, and pitching those energies away with Raging Bolt EX at 70 damage per. We have big build them up kind of deck here, and we're able to accelerate energies really quickly between Professor Seda's, the Teal Mask, and really just our attach per turn. We have enough item cards that we're going to pile through when it comes to using Pokestop. It's a really well constructed archetype, and you might need to get a little bit lucky with your Pokemon catchers, but you don't need that many heads in order to win a game. So I think this is one of those things where this deck is a little bit underrated, and it did have some solid showings at NAIC. I totally expect this deck to rock some League Cups going forward, and if you haven't tried this deck out, it's one of the better decks that we received from Twilight Masquerade. At number 3, we have one of the more interesting decks on this list, Dragapult EX with Charizard EX and Pidgeot EX. So a little bit of a combination of a few decks. You have the Charizard Pidgeot deck, throw in Dragapult in there for good measure, and we can spread damage counters however we like. We have the option to do kind of spread our damage, try to draw extra prize cards, use something like Kieran to do extra damage. Like, there's a lot of really cool things when it comes to playing this list, and it uses underutilized cards like Neo Upper Energy. Like, I can't think of a cooler deck list than this particular list. And it's one of those things where I would fully well explore this deck if you haven't got a chance to already, because it's decks like this that as Dragapult Charizard grows, or it might see more success next format, you might want to try it out a little bit. I don't know how many people would have guessed that this deck would have been top 3. I mean, a lot of people would have guessed Dragapult, but the Charizard kind of ties this all together as a way to accelerate energies to your Dragapult, and of course, being a backup attacker. We have 2 decks left on this list. 2 decks left on this list. You can see that my mind's already like melting due to the summer heat. But put your best guesses in the comments below. See if you get it right. We do respond to all comments on this channel, so be sure to check that out. Let's jump into our number 2 pick. Sliding into number 2 is going to be Lawson Box, the deck that actually won the 2024 North American International Championships. I think this list is exactly Andrew Hedrick's list, except I've cut a Pokestop for a Manaphy just because I expect a handful of Lawson Box decks popping up, and Radiant Greninja can really pull its weight in the mirror match. We're trying to run through our deck with Comfey, Colress's Experiment, and Lost Vacuum, getting cards into the Lost Zone so we can activate Mirage Gate to accelerate energy to a handful of powerful Pokemon such as Iron Hands EX and the brand new Iron Thorns EX. I think this list is very well figured out when it comes down to it. Lost Zone Box has been a very proven archetype over the past couple of years, and I really think that it's one of those things where Lost Zone Box is going to continue to dominate until there's actually a hard counter that tells it not to dominate. In our next set, we do get Kira, which does counter this deck a little bit, but you can still kind of block it with Manaphy. We'll have to see how that ends up playing out for us, but right now, I think that this is one of the best decks in our format, and while it didn't reach number 1, it could be number 1. But what do you think number 1 is? Let's jump into it. And here we have it, number 1, Gardevoir EX, the deck that dominated the North American International Championships by taking 6 out of the top 8 slots. And furthermore, it looks like the list is very well figured out. Between using the new Monkey Dory to take damage counters that you place with Gardevoir's Psychic Embrace, or using Unfair Stamp to take your opponent's hand down only 2 cards whenever you need it, this deck certainly has a lot of cool things going for it. And with all these tricks to accelerate energies to your different Pokemon, ramp them up, move damage counters around, disrupt your opponent's hands, we have one of the absolute best decks we've seen ever. Gardevoir has always been a successful archetype, whether it's Gardevoir EX, Gardevoir Level X, whatever, but here we have it, 2024, Gardevoir EX, the best deck in June 2024. What do you think about this deck? Do you think it's worthwhile? I think between Kirlia being a built-in draw engine, Gardevoir ramping up energies, being able to control your damage output with Monkey Dory as a built-in energy, or as a built-in damage modifier, having ways to snipe, ability lock, scale damage output, heal yourself. Yeah, this deck certainly has it all, and it's one of the hardest decks to play. So if you haven't got a chance, pick up Gardevoir, try it out. There's a League Battle deck version of this deck, and that gets you a lot of the cards. After that, you probably only need 10-15 bucks on cards from Kayfabe to get the rest of this deck. Let me close things out. And that's what we got going on for our video today. I hope that everyone enjoyed learning and watching about the top 10 best decks in format. And if you're getting ready for League Cups, these are going to be some solid lists to prepare. If you've been watching the channel recently, you might have noticed, hey, where did Zach's stuff go? Did he get robbed? Totally not. I'm in the position of moving in the next couple weeks. So if you watch this video, maybe I've already moved, maybe I haven't. It's one of those things where I try to record my content a little bit in advance, especially when it comes to these streaks where it's like I'm moving or traveling or anything else like that. So you can see we are almost there. That's all I have basically left of this, and then my computer PC setup that I have in front of me. It's an exciting change that my wife and I are moving pretty far away in Canada. So if you're locals in the Toronto and you don't see me, I'm still playing. I'm just somewhere else. And I'm really excited. We got a daughter on the way. So big change, big exciting change. But hopefully it just means that I have a little bit more time to create some content and stuff like that. Can kind of tone back some of my other ventures and kind of provide more content for you on the Shuffle Squad or as myself. We'll see how everything else goes. But I really appreciate everyone watching the video. If you haven't got a chance, check out the pinned comment with all the lists. You can copy and paste those right into live. And of course, you can always like, share, subscribe to the channel. We've been doing a lot of effort to make things better for everyone. So if you like it, help us out. Double check to see if you subscribed. Double check to see if you give the video a like. Leaving a comment really helps boost the YouTube algorithm. And if you see any of our social posts on Twitter or X or Facebook, anywhere, Discord, be sure to interact with them. It does help out a lot. Much love to everyone. Stay tuned for more great content from the squad. Peace out for now. Want to support the Shuffle Squad? Be sure to check out all of our sponsors in the description to pick up Pokemon TCG singles, sealed, and PTCG live codes. You made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching this entire video from the Shuffle Squad. Honestly, from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate each and every person that supports our content, watches what we have going on every single day, every single week, even from time to time, and continuously allows us to have a forum to project our creative content towards the Pokemon TCG community. So if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and even leave a comment to help boost the YouTube algorithm. That being said, we'll catch you with our next video. Thanks again. Take it easy.